Welcome everyone to the Heart to Heart Relationship Clinic, the H2 Relationship Clinic. My name is David Ibrahim, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist and the creator of the H2 Connection. Before we begin, just a quick reminder that today's discussion is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to be psychotherapy, counseling, or diagnosis or treatment of any kind. If you're struggling with mental health concerns, please find support from a qualified provider in your area. And each week we'll explore different ideas that can help us create deeper connection and healthier relationships. And today I'd like to talk about a simple question: what actually makes someone feel emotionally safe in a relationship? What actually makes someone feel emotionally safe in a relationship? And it's a healthy question to ask ourselves, because sometimes people think emotional safety comes from being agreeable, or others think it comes from reassurance. And if you think of what's the opposite of that, when we think of what's the opposite of being safe, if we're not safe and we're unsafe, what's going on that creates unsafety? And usually a lot of this is conditioned from a young age, right? But we can recondition it. um, Sometimes people even think it's about avoiding conflict. you know uh, I don't want to deal with that, so I'm going to avoid the conflict. And a lot of times I've noticed in my work too, working with couples for years and individuals, a lot of people mistake conflict for something that's aggressive. A lot of people don't understand that this is actually healthy conflict, and it doesn't have to be aggressive in any way. It can be two people connecting on a deep emotional level, and that's profound. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. People get high off of it naturally. I've witnessed it day in, day out. That's why I dedicated my career to it. I love it. um, and in relationship research, there's emotional safety that they show that they're proving grows when people feel heard, understood, and seen. And it can feel like rocking the boat. And in a healthy relationship, I mean, that's how you learn how to paddle together, without hurting each other, coming from a place of love and care. Um, and one of the things I've noticed over the years is that most people, they don't necessarily need their partner to agree with them. They do need their partner to understand them. And I want to invite you to think about this for a moment. How many arguments have you had where what you really wanted, it wasn't to win? I hope not, at least. That I hope it doesn't get to come down to that. But what you wanted was for the other person to finally understand, what was happening inside you, to understand why you were hurt, understand why you were scared, understand why something mattered to you, and to do that reciprocally for each other. It's a really profound act. And many couples, they spend years, trying to solve problems before they've even understood the experience underneath the problem. That there's something deeper to understand together first, and that can organically create inspiration and care for each other to want to fix things. And that's often where disconnection begins. We're not attuned to each other on a heart to heart level. And I was working recently, where something stood out to me, that the person I was working with, they said after completing the heart to heart, opening their heart and processing this with a partner, they realized something really surprising. They thought that they needed their partner to do something differently, in their behavior, and that they needed this kind of specific action from them. But after feeling truly heard on a heart level, understood, seen deeply, they noticed their need began to change. Not because the issue was no longer mattered to them, but because they no longer felt alone in it. And I hear this also quite often, where a lot of times people feel like, hey, Dave, they don't have my back. My partner, they don't have my back. Or I feel alone. They're not here for me. And that moment really captures something important. It captures something important. That sometimes the need beneath the need is understanding first. The foundation creates a solid foundation together to understand first. And sometimes what we're looking for, it's not simply a solution. I'm not talking about allowing abuse, right, or extreme situations here. I'm just talking about arguments that end up going round and round, and there's no, deep felt sense of each other. And many times we're looking for evidence that our inner world matters. And one of the strongest findings in relationship research is something called the perceived partner responsiveness, and it's the experience that my partner understands me, that my partner cares about me, that my partner responds to my emotional needs. Most people, they don't even use that language. And a lot of people, or not a lot of people, but there's people that they want to poo-poo on it. But if you think about it too, right? What's the opposite then? Screaming, cursing, cheating, getting high, running away. What kind of solution is that? I say, you know what I mean? How many times does somebody have to go through that suffering ring, the ring of fire, the endless amount of suffering, right? And people say a lot of times, I want to feel heard, I want to feel understood, I want to feel seen, and action will come. But first things first. And when people feel heard, understood, and seen, emotional safety begins to grow, and that's fertile soil. It's fertile, and you can grow together from there profoundly. Okay, and one of the greatest gifts we can offer each other in partnership is the experience of being understood. Just on a simple level, really opening up to each other. Not trying to fix each other or correct each other, or, you know, not arguing over and over. Just understanding each other first, right? On the level of soul. And again, many people feel safest when they feel heard, understood, and they're seen. First, just simply at the beginning. And emotional safety is often where connection begins. So I want to thank everybody for joining the H2 Relationship Clinic. If today's discussion was helpful, please subscribe and feel free to share it with someone you care about. One of the reasons I created the heart-to-heart connection, the H2 connection, is because I kept seeing couples who genuinely loved each other, but they didn't have a reliable structure, for feeling heard, understood, and seen. And many of the ideas we discussed today and tonight, they help inspire the creation of the H2 connection. The tutorial, I'm going to be releasing it soon. I'm going to be sharing details about that in the coming days. You can go to h2connection.love. Also, it's the website. And we're creating a school forum for couples. I'm really excited about it. It's going to be, amazing. Hopefully, if we have support for each other, that can be incredibly transformational and bring wonderful things into our relational life. Okay, so until next time, remember, love notices, love responds, love repairs, love returns.